It's a wedding no one expected, but the emotions it stirred will be remembered for years. In a sun-drenched chapel nestled in the French countryside, Xiao Zhan made his way down the aisle with the kind of quiet grace that has captivated millions. The crowd was hushed, holding their collective breath, not just because of the beauty of the moment, but because one man, seated silently in the front row, had begun to cry. That man was Wang Yibo, and his tears told a story far deeper than the ceremony itself. The day the earth stood still. The venue was picturesque. Lavender fields stretched beyond the horizon. Sunlight glinted off white rose petals scattered down the aisle, and a string quartet played a gentle rendition of Yi Chan's Best Wishes. But the true drama unfolded in the emotional realm, where hearts clashed with reality. Wang Yibo, the actor, singer, and motorcycle aficionado known for his stoicism, was visibly emotional as Xiao Zhan, the other half of the legendary Zhan pairing, entered the hall. Wearing a classic white suit and an expression of calm resolve, Xiao Zhan was radiant. But all eyes kept flickering back to Wang Yibo, who sat frozen, his eyes glistening, his lips trembling. No one expected him to show up, much less unravel. From the untamed to the unspoken. Their names have been inseparable since 2019, when the Untamed thrust them into a spotlight hotter than either could have anticipated. As Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian, they redefined on-screen chemistry, blurring the lines between fiction and something achingly real. What followed was a fandom explosion, shipping wars, art, poetry, and relentless speculation. Was Zhan a bromance, a secret romance, or simply two men bound by a deep platonic connection? They never said. But moments like this, the sight of Wang Yibo openly weeping at Xiao Zhan's wedding, seemed to speak louder than press releases ever could. Eyewitnesses speak. He looked devastated. He didn't try to hide it, one guest revealed anonymously. He had his hand over his mouth, like he was trying not to make a sound, but the tears just wouldn't stop. It was heartbreak, plain and simple. Another added, when Xiao Zhan turned his head slightly and met Wang Yibo's eyes, only for a second, you could see something pass between them. Something heavy. Something unsaid. Was this goodbye, or a silent blessing? Speculation has already flooded social media. Was Wang Yibo's presence a show of support, or the final act in a story that never had a proper ending? Sources close to the pair say the two hadn't spoken publicly in over a year, though they reportedly exchanged messages in private. A former staff member from the Untamed production admitted, there was always tension. The kind you feel when something important is left unresolved. If this wedding was a closure, it wasn't a quiet one. The image of Wang Yibo wiping his face as the ceremony proceeded has gone viral. Hashtags like #YiboTears, #Zhan and #UnspokenVows trended within hours. The vows that broke him. When Xiao Zhan began reading his vows, many in the room looked toward Wang Yibo. He didn't flinch, but his eyes never left Xiao Zhan's face. I once believed love needed to be loud, needed to be proven, Xiao Zhan said, his voice steady but emotional. But I've learned that love can also be silent. It can live in glances, in timing, in choices we make, even if they don't lead us down the same path. By then, Wang Yibo's tears had returned. Fans react. The real love story was never on screen. Across Weibo, Twitter, and international fan platforms, fans mourned, celebrated, and speculated. One popular post read, maybe they were never lovers. Maybe they were. But whatever they were, it mattered. And it hurt. Others praised Wang Yibo's bravery, noting that in a world that expects men, especially idols, to remain emotionally distant, his vulnerability was nothing short of heroic. After the aisle, what's next for Wang Yibo? Wang Yibo was seen leaving the venue early, alone, head bowed beneath a black cap. He's said to have flown directly to Seoul the next morning for a dance workshop, throwing himself back into work. Some say he looked relieved. Others say he looked emptied out. What's certain is this. Whether as friends, creative partners, or something else entirely, the bond between Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan was, and is real. And as Xiao Zhan begins a new chapter, Wang Yibo is left with memories, a tear-soaked handkerchief, and a love story that the world may never fully understand. In the end, no words were needed. The story of Zhan was never about what they said. It was about what they didn't. So when Wang Yibo cried as Xiao Zhan walked down the aisle, he didn't need to speak. Because in that single moment, raw, honest, unguarded, the whole world finally understood what he had been carrying all along. The silence after the storm. In the hours following the ceremony, the wedding venue emptied slowly, guests lingering beneath hanging lights and half-finished glasses of champagne. But Wang Yibo was already gone. A few close friends said he left without speaking to Xiao Zhan. Others say there was a brief, wordless moment in the hallway outside the chapel, a lingering glance, a nod, a flicker of something that might have been peace, or might have been regret. But Xiao Zhan? He didn't break. At least, not in front of anyone. Behind closed doors, Xiao Zhan's private goodbye. Later that evening, once the dancing had faded and the laughter grew thin, Xiao Zhan was reportedly seen alone by the window of his suite, looking out at the fields below. A member of the venue staff, who asked not to be named, described him standing in silence, still in his wedding suit, sipping something clear from a glass.
He looked quiet.
Not sad. Not happy. Just like someone who had finally let go of a part of himself. Some say he clutched a small piece of paper in his hand. Others claim he whispered something under his breath before tucking it into his jacket pocket. No one knows what it said. But many believe it was never meant for his partner. It was meant for Wang Yibo. The letter that was never sent. Online fan communities exploded with theories. One post, which garnered over 2 million likes within 48 hours, speculated that Xiao Zhan had written Wang Yibo a letter in the weeks before the wedding. The post claims the letter included a farewell, a confession, and an apology for what their fame, what the world, had stolen from them. The letter has never been confirmed, but the words imagined by fans have haunted timelines ever since. You were always the silence in my storm, but I chose the world over the whisper. Forgive me. Yibo's escape, a man in motion. Wang Yibo didn't give interviews. He didn't post on Weibo. He didn't show up to the wedding reception. Instead, he did what he always does when the world becomes too much. He moved. Within a day, he was in Seoul. By the end of the week, he was racing down a track in Japan, helmet on, speed blurring the grief away. A reporter caught a glimpse of him outside a hotel and asked, "Were you at Xiao Zhan's wedding?" Yibo didn't respond. He only smiled just slightly and turned away. But his eyes said everything. The world they left behind. For years, Zhan symbolized a rare kind of connection, two stars burning side by side, never colliding, yet unmistakably drawn to each other. Fans followed their every glance, every touch, every lingering smile. Now it feels like the story has finally ended. But has it? Some believe this is just a new chapter, a quieter, more adult version of their bond. A love that evolved, even if it never bloomed the way people hoped. Others say the wedding was a line in the sand, and that once Xiao Zhan crossed it, Wang Yibo stayed behind, alone. What Xiao Zhan says now. In a rare interview released a month after the wedding, Xiao Zhan was asked gently, "Is there anything or anyone you left behind for this new life?" He paused for a long time. Then, with a calm smile, he answered, "Every decision costs something. But sometimes love is not about holding on. It's about letting go, gracefully. That, too, is love." The interviewer didn't press further. They didn't need to. A love not lost, just lived differently. So, what does it mean when a man cries as another walks down the aisle? In the case of Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan, it means history. It means something real, even if undefined. It means a connection too complex for labels, too deep for fan fiction, too fragile for fame. It means they loved, whether for a moment or a lifetime, and now they carry it quietly, like a song they can't sing out loud anymore. And sometimes, that kind of love is the most unforgettable of all. Final words. Not the end, just a pause. The story of Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan was never just about romance or rumor. It was about timing, fate, and two souls who found each other in a chaotic world. So when the aisle was walked and the tears were shed, a chapter closed. But some stories never truly end. They just become memory. And Wang Yibo, eyes red, jaw clenched, hands empty, will carry that memory forever. Because some goodbyes are not final. They're just echoes.